Dzień dobry, ciao, assalamu alaikum, namaste. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you today? It's Ken at 10. Here we are, Tuesday, the 2nd of February. Wow, 2021 February. Only seems yesterday it was 2020 and we were locked down, doesn't it? How are you today? I hope you're well. If you haven't been here before, then very welcome. My name is Ken Hume and we're James Alexander Estate Agents. We're estate agents based in southwest London between Streatham and Croydon, and we broadcast daily, talk about all things property, generally, locally, and what's going on really. And particularly today, we've had the debate yesterday of the stamp duty petition, which I'll come on to in a second. And it's Ask JA Tuesday. Every Tuesday, we like to answer questions. And today, Amir has asked, he's struggling to sell his flat due to new rules with the post-Grenfell and EWS1, and would like to know how buy-to-let would work and would he regret not selling. So we're coming on to that for you later. But yeah, let's straight away get into the nitty-gritty of yesterday's debate, because it was a big one. Yesterday, MPs debated stamp duty, and the reason they debated it was because there was a petition and it reached over 100,000 signatures, and that triggers an automatic debate in Parliament. So well done you. If you signed that petition, you had the impact. We're not out of the woods yet, though, because we don't actually know what it means. But here is what was said. And this has come from, I think these notes have come from the Telegraph. I just remember years ago I met a lady, and she said to me, "Take the Telegraph, Mr. Hume." It's always stuck with me, I don't know why. I just thought it was so aloof. Do you take the Telegraph? Anyway, so this is what they said. MPs yesterday debated a petition for a 6-month extension of the stamp duty holiday, where it suggested that the 31st of March cut-off on the horizon, a number of buyers who may miss the deadline could pull out of deals, driving a collapse in sales as property chains are broken. Labour's Abina Apolisare said, an overheating of the market now looks set to be followed by a crash of many people's sales. While Conservative MP Kevin Hollinrake suggested ministers taper the end of the holiday. Now, Hollinrake is the owner of a very large estate agency group. So, good morning, Deirdre. How are you? And I got your message, by the way. I'll be working on that in a minute. Yeah, Kevin owns a very large estate agency group, but is also a Conservative MP. So he's urging the government to extend the holiday by a further 3 months. And he's saying that anyone who's got a mortgage offer by the end of Feb should have a further 3 months to complete their purchase until after March 31st. That's an interesting idea. Of course, we'd like to see it abolished altogether. I don't think that's likely. As I've said before, it's the simplest tax to collect, and they're skint right now, aren't they? So I can't see it happening, but I'd love to see that happen. Jesse Norman, Financial Secretary to the Treasury, said, and this is the key one, isn't it? He could not comment on tax policy outside of a fiscal event, but that the government will continue to listen to concerns. Now, that means, as I've said many times, that I believe March the 3rd is when we're looking at getting an announcement on that. So that should be interesting. And on the back of that, another news article is saying that mortgage approvals have hit their highest level since 2007. Figures from the Bank of England show that mortgage approvals rose to 818,500 in 2020, exceeding the previous record of 789,000 in 2019. And that's the highest level since 2017. So that's quite interesting. Private clients note, SPF private clients noted there's a significant uptick in lending in the second half of the year as borrowers rush to take advantage of the stamp duty holiday, both for more space inside and out, and also played a part in cheap mortgage products. It says, well, not if you're a first-time buyer, I would say, as I've been arguing for some time, but nonetheless, I understand his point. Cladding. Now, this is one that we've been, it's been a bugbear of ours for a while. We've been talking about. And this was again raised in Parliament yesterday, and this comes from the Telegraph and the Times. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer wrote, I've seen firsthand in my constituency how the cladding scandal is ruining lives. The mental health toll on residents is enormous. Yeah, absolutely. Hundreds of thousands of people across the capital are locked down in flammable buildings and face crippling bills to make their homes safe. This cannot continue. A number of Conservative backbenchers spoke out during the debate to urge the government to do more. Labour forced a vote urging the government to establish a national task force to work on the problem. The vote, which passed 263-0 after Conservatives were ordered to abstain because they didn't want Keir to get any glory for it, no doubt. The big players in the crisis have spent the last few years pointing fingers and avoiding responsibility, adding that if you bought a new car which turned out to be dangerous, you wouldn't expect to take out a loan in order to repair it. You'd take it back. I think that's fair comment. I've said for a while now, these large PLC builders, they're the ones that put this cladding in, not the people that bought the houses. They should be the ones that should come together with a plan to put it right again. Another thing on the budget, upcoming budget, Sunak may target capital gains tax. This is an interesting one if you're thinking of selling a property and it's not your principal home, because you will be paying capital gains tax. He says that experts have warned that the charge with restoring Britain's finances amid COVID-19, mitigating the cost of the pandemic, tax changes have been feared as a way to raise funds. And capital gains tax is one levy which has garnered significant attention. Held the investment and mutually owned provider of savings investments believe CGT could be high up on Sunak's list. Capital gains tax is generally seen as a tax on moving money around rather than on production or consumption. So it could be a soft target, said their chief executive. Finally, the last article I picked up on was multi-generational living boosting the property value. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to increased in multi-generational living. Well, certainly we're finding that at the moment with various people in our household. And Aviva, the insurer, found that more than a third of Britons are now living with grandparents or an adult. Boomerang children, that boomerang, how one never went away. But in addition, 2/5 of 18 to 34-year-olds are planning to return to their family home either temporarily or permanently, according to Compare the Market. The trend has led to an explosion in the demand for granny annexes. We found that locally a lot for a number of years. But yeah, it's interesting. So granny annexes are considered a significant boost where there's so many families now multi-generationally living, because it's cheaper, isn't it? And let's face it, the cost of housing these days, hardly surprising. Right, let's get on to Ask JA Tuesday. Amir wrote, I'm struggling to sell my flat due to the new rules post-Grenfell. This is a victim of the cladding scandal, Amir. My heart goes out to you, my friend. Many people in your position. And the question is, how would let to buy work for me, and will I regret not selling? Well, it's a two-part question, isn't it? Let's deal with the first part first of all, because that's quite a big question. You might notice that he uses the words let to buy instead of buy to let. And he's absolutely right there, Amir. You've hit the nail on the head. When you're leaving your existing property and renting it out and then buying another property to live in, you are letting your own to buy. So that is called let to buy, as opposed to buy to let. And what you need to do, first of all, the considerations are, number one, will your lender actually allow you to do this? And it's two-part, really. Number one is, will they allow you to let out your own property to buy another? And that requires that they feel there's sufficient equity and that you're sufficiently low enough risk that they're prepared to do it for you. And then secondly, that they're prepared to lend you on the new property. So the way it generally works, and by the way, this is not mortgage advice, speak to a qualified advisor if that's something you want. It's a general overview of what might happen. So the lender might say, for instance, right, we'll loan you 75% on your existing property, which you're renting out. And then if you have equity still, you could pull that and use that towards a deposit on the new property. And then they would lend you money on the new property and basically ignore the fact that you have an existing property. They wouldn't take that into account as a liability because you're renting it out. So basically you become almost like a first-time buyer. You're keeping your own property, letting it out. It's become very common recently, and certainly we have a number of blocks here in South London where they're in the middle of EWS1 works. They don't yet know what's going on, and therefore they can't sell. And so we're renting those properties out, and those people are often letting their own and then going on to buy others. So the considerations are, in terms of what you should do, given that Amir has a flat, first of all, compliance, freeholder permission, probably via your managing agent, but you need to find out whether you can obtain permission. They should give you permission. It shouldn't be unreasonably withheld in most leases. Your buildings insurance needs to be adjusted or advised so that they are aware that you're renting it out, so they don't make the policy null and void. Physical considerations of the property, you've got electrical safety. The EICR is now required since July last year, PAT testing as well. Then you've got the landlord's gas safety if you have gas, or also known as a CP12. Of course, you'll need an energy performance certificate. And then you need furnishings and fire safety. Legionellas as well. There is a legal duty for landlords to assess and control the risks of exposure to Legionella, but health and safety law does not require landlords to produce or obtain a Legionnaire's testing certificate, and doesn't recognise one particularly either. But if you're currently living in the property, our advice is then, if you move out, make sure that you run the taps in the sinks and the showers for a considerable length of time, use some bleach to make sure that there is no risk there. Then you've got to think about inventories, getting good advice in terms of what you might achieve from a decent agent. And when I say decent agent, somebody like us, somebody that's ALA registered, fidelity bonded, ALA being the professional body qualifying by exam, so people know what they're doing, really important that. And also being fidelity bonded means that, well, we've been here for a long, long time, over 25 years, so it's unlikely, but it's still possible, like any firm these days, especially with the pandemic, we could go bust. And if we were, you'd want to know your money is safe or your tenant's deposit is safe. And we're fidelity bonded, as is a requirement of ALA. Not all agents are, and this means that your money is protected in the event that the agency goes bust. So make sure that your agency is fidelity bonded and ask to see their certificate if you're not sure. Tenant selection, probably, arguably, the single most important issue, and should include credit checks, landlord references, and guarantor checks. We look for a rent guarantee policy as well. We tend to ensure to give our landlords belt and braces cover when things go wrong. Touch wood, we have a very, very good record of it not going wrong. And the vast majority of our tenants are fantastic and pay regularly and cooperate with us. Obviously, things may change with the pandemic, who knows? But obviously, by having that insurance in place, you protect yourself as well. Now, Amir, coming on to your second question, will I regret not selling? I think that this is a two-parter for me. Again, number one, I don't know anyone who in the medium term has held property for a significant length of time that's lost out. It's very rare that you lose money over a significant period if you hang on in there. By the same token, you need to be the right sort of person that can decathect, that can step away emotionally from the property you're living in and see it as a business. Because when you start getting an income from it, which covers a mortgage payments, then it's a business. And you need to step away from it emotionally and say, right, it's no longer my home, this is now a business. And you have to look at it as such and not get too emotive if things go wrong, and breathe. Or get a managing agent to do it for you, to take that away, that stress away. So yeah, answer to your question, Amir, yeah, we can do it. Other agents can do it, no problem. Two considerations. Would it work for you? Well, you need to speak to your lender first of all about that. That would be the first step there. And will you regret not selling? Well, I don't know many people that do in the medium term. The problem that people tend to have sort of 10 years down the line, in my experience, is they then think about selling and realize there's a massive capital gains tax bill because they made a profit, and then they end up keeping it because the income's gone up significantly in that time as well. So a lot of the landlords that start as accidental end up as thinking, well, actually, we're better off keeping this for our pension. And many of our landlords from 10 and 20 years ago that intended for a quick let and then off are still there now, still using the income. In some places, they're even retired on it and using that income in many countries throughout the world as a supplement to their pensions. And some people are keeping it for their children's education, all sorts of different things. So I don't think it's something you go wrong with in the medium term, but do make sure you get proper professional advice in those directions. Well, that's it for Ken at 10 today. Hope you're all well and having a good day. Here in Norbury, the weather is overcast, but not too cold, actually. It's bright and good enough for some photographs, which is good. And we have noticed an uptick in the number of first-time buyers registering for the first time. Yes, first-time buyers. We've been looking for this for a long time, and we've actually started to register some first-time buyers. We're excited to tell you. I don't know what's made them come out of the woodwork because it's been a while, but it's lovely to see. As you all know, for a while now, I've been saying that it's difficult for first-time buyers to get on the ladder, and I still hope they can get some more support from the government in the form of an announcement about supporting buyers on 95% mortgages. Time will tell. In the meantime, hope you have a fantastic day. Look after yourselves and your families. Stay safe. Speak to you tomorrow.